sang ji che don zo je cho na shang yo ba du da ne shu su ji da ge ge je be so nam lo lo be she sang ji do bar yo sang ji che don zo je cho na shang yo ba du da ne shu su ji da ge ge je be so nam lo lo be she sang ji do bar yo nolas majona bitada nyambe sengi tangi tendo tojalana me bayanda bazobe sanji je kumbaram beji kenje tobra shagu te tobra shawi chedo tambe cherum boje senya be kolon shanju je semji se seme gone sembre kyo.
Let us cultivate the altruistic motivation seeking complete enlightenment for the sake of liberating infinite, kind, mother sentient beings with that kind of bodhicitta motivation that we should all participate in this teaching. As I often remind all of ourselves, that it's very important for us to reflect upon the reasons why we need to cultivate spirituality, or what we call dharma, in our life. Or in other words, we are talking about pros and cons of practicing or not practicing dharma. So it's very important for us to understand and to reflect upon the reasons why dharma or spirituality is so important in our life. So relatedly, we need to understand what kinds of results that we would be able to accomplish through the practice of dharma. If we cultivate pure spirituality or dharma, then we would be able to accomplish many different types or levels of results or outcomes. At the very highest level, we could become fully enlightened being or Buddha. So Buddhas, enlightened beings, are the results of having practiced pure spirituality or dharma. And then we also have bodhisattvas on different spiritual paths and grounds. And these bodhisattvas have tremendous realizations in their mind, which are all outcomes or the results of practicing pure dharma or spirituality. And then we also have realized beings of Shirvakayan, or the hearer's vehicle, and solitary realizers, or the Pratyeka Buddhayan. And these realized beings are also the results or the outcomes of practicing dharma purely.
동네 동네 주다 트렌지 여기다 뒤에 된바 또 정말 다 그래서 최근에 shum을했어.
In essence, those who have been able to find a nirvana or liberation, a state in which they have found lasting peace and happiness, and they have abandoned for good suffering in its causes. And above that level, those who have achieved complete enlightened state or Buddhahood, the state in which one has, all the, peace, happiness, and the best of everything, and one is endowed with all the remarkable qualities, and one is completely and absolutely free of all defilements and negativities. And so all of these are, in other words, nirvana or liberation and enlightenment and Buddhahood are the outcomes or the results of cultivating spirituality purely.
동해 빠르면 방용고에 가르쳐서는 랑 디바 사네 최마두비 젠제 쇼머레스.
So if those are the outcomes or the results of practicing dharma or spirituality purely, then what are the demerits or the disadvantages of not practicing dharma or getting involved in negativities? Now, all kinds of suffering that we and others experience and encounter in our lives, and wandering in different states of samsara or cyclic existence, are the results or the outcomes of negativities that we and others do and accumulate. So negativities lead to suffering and more suffering. So negativities, occur because of not cultivating or practicing spirituality.
So ngarancho karin degu ersena tu tadne devote kibu degu dowas dungezan degu mendowas tene sonsa ta chu dugue te joche hakko sonwas.
In simple terms, that all of us wants, to be happy, to have peace of mind, and to have best of everything. What we really don't want is any kind of difficulty, problem, and suffering. And these are the reasons why we need to study and practice dharma or spirituality.
루주기 최대한 다 망보여레스 단 잠빌는 최로 망보여레스 아니 때난 다 ngaran존도 까지 봐봐가니 지금은 다 빼나 나제가 또 메시지 사경대 되고 송비 최대 노신다 비 냠슬린 거레스.
So in our world we have many rich spiritual traditions, and the tradition that I represent and I'm trying to transmit to you is that of the historical Buddha Shakyamuni's. So we are following Buddha Shakyamuni's teaching or spirituality.
다 잠빌는 줄로 망보여 줄 간데지 있나야 단 생기hiện 평가여밖에도 차거스.
I believe that all the spiritual traditions that we have in our world are meant to be of benefits to sentient beings.
손자다 소수 강 뜻줄 망보여래 디나네다 소수 강 매버텔 안도신이 뜻이네 야고요스.
So we have in other words a variety of spiritual traditions available in our world, and it is up to us as individuals to find out what kind of spirituality suits our predispositions, our capacities, and our needs.
다 산적이 최 누시는 시면은 다 간에 최 누구고요래 최 누구고요래 존자 누베 땡징에 받도 야부지라고요래.
In the Buddha's teaching, so much emphasis is put on, of course, spiritual education, and more emphasis is laid on cultivating spirituality, or what we call implementing the teaching or practicing the teaching. And so to be able to practice teachings, we have to find what we call a suitable life basis, that enables us to engage in the study and practice of Buddha's teaching. So we have many forms of life in the universe, or the life basis. Of them all, the best kind of life that one could have to practice Dharma or spirituality is, as a matter of fact, precious human life that all of us have right now. Our precious human life is characterized by 8 freedoms and 10 enriching factors, 18 wonderful qualities, and because of which this life is the most suitable life basis for cultivating spirituality. Relatively speaking, that because of this precious human life, we have the resources and opportunities at our disposal to be able to practice Dharma. Relatively speaking, we encounter less obstacles, to engage in spiritual practice. So, in terms of this, this human life has a tremendous potentiality and has, all the opportunities that one could think of to cultivate spirituality. If we think deeply, this precious human life is much more precious than any precious stone or a gem that is known to our world. Or even like thinking in terms of money, even if someone were to have $1 billion, but this precious life is much more precious than having $1 billion in one's account. So then, of course, we want to investigate the reason why this precious human life is much more precious than any precious gem or even tremendous amount of dollars in one's account. Now, as I mentioned before, that deep down inside us, what we all want is lasting peace and happiness, and what we don't want is any kind of problem and suffering. Now, these aspirations or the innate wishes that we all have could be accomplished through cultivating spirituality. One could have billions of dollars in one's account, but after all, you can't shop around for happiness. You can't shop around for peace. Okay? And so these are not marketable realizations that people can go and then put a price tag on them, and then those with the money can go home with their trophies. That's not how it works. Peace and happiness are to be found through spiritual cultivation, and to be able to end any kind of problem, suffering, we must cultivate spirituality. So we all have this innate wish that we don't like suffering and we don't want suffering. But what's also important for us is to find out what brings us suffering. What is the source of problems and sufferings that we don't want? Suffering could not have come without causes and conditions. That's just impossible. That is not in the law of nature. Suffering is the result of its causes and conditions, and it is important for us to investigate what brings us suffering.
Doctor never took a taxi to the condition to them called to make a shonsak. Chonset that genetic good Sawaki tell me tango is mato any native shows that Sawa Machina doing it native Trotugment was 10 nangiris.
Just to give a very common example that anybody could relate to here is, so when we get sick, we go to see a doctor. What the doctor does is diagnoses our situation. And what the diagnosis involves is finding out what has caused whatever the health issue that we have. Okay? So once that cause has been identified and recognized, then the doctor can prescribe the right kind of treatment or the medicine to get rid of the suffering. But if you don't address the very cause of the sickness, there's really no way to be free from that sickness, for good. So this is the same idea here, that to be able to put an end to suffering, we have to find out its causes. So as we investigate what really brings problems and sufferings that we don't want, what are the real causes of suffering that we encounter, what we come to see is this, that contaminated karmic actions and deluded states of mind or afflictive emotions, these are the two primary causes of suffering.
So the car is not that Tangarajo the son of Tong Chaniki donation at the she Zakan Samata, Antagani, she changed in Shonaki Sandong Ravas. They married the chamber, they touch chains and race. That shows our car is no late and Yomuni race.
In our usual way of thinking, when we encounter problems, we attribute these problems to some external causes and conditions. If I get sick, or maybe I ate the wrong food, that's the food problem, or whatever other things. Yes, that food is actually not a real cause of one's sickness, but that is a contributing factor, or what we call a condition. But the real cause of our sicknesses or any kind of problems is actually, negative karmas that we ourselves have created and accumulated, and add to that the delusions, or the deluded states of mind that we have. So those are the real causes of our problems.
So Jabata, Takanji, so Jabata, Senji Magina Lambata, and then the Lord Shabata, Tagani, June Trama to Zungache, Ijigo Nasen, Singodas of the nation, Senji Hela, Nepe Rita Rangaluna, Yisu, Nepe Ricadishena, that tea, and a late resta.
Now, how is that karmic actions are the real causes of our problems, if you ask? Now, motivated by or deluded states of mind, that we engage in negativities of all kinds. You just name it. We go to the extent of killing someone, or we go and steal things which belong to others, or that we go and deceive and cheat and lie to others, all that we engage in adultery and sexual misconducts, all that we engage in idle gossiping, that we covet for others' goods and things, that we hold malicious intentions towards others, that we hold distorted views and so forth. So all these and many more negativities that we do and accumulate physically, verbally, and mentally are the real causes of our problems and suffering.
That Tenzin ane migi le Tenzin kang Tenzin shumresena that ranjili yepe nyemabati kun han shumres.
So then if we say that if we find ourselves engaging in these negativities, what makes us do that? You know, who or what is instigating us to do these things? You know, this is where when we go deep down inside our afflictive emotions or the delusions called kleshas in Sanskrit, nyönmong in Tibetan, are the real culprits. You see, deluded states of mind prompt us, instigate us, motivate us, push us, force us, you know, trick us to do negativities.
So that the ranjili opinion was the young rang jili opinion would have progress. Carden the chat and hedan that timu sauris. Ane tesum ane ta chado tal tawa loba that in the mambuchi or was. So Tenzin Nyomos, Nyomoma Tenzuka, any Queen and Honey, late citing yours.
So what are delusions, you know? And whose delusions, if you ask? Of course, we are talking about delusions in our own mind. We are really looking inwardly. We are not looking at somebody's delusions. Okay? We are talking about my delusions or one's own delusions. And we have so many of them. For example, we have attachment, we have anger or hatred, and of course, deep down, we have ignorance, avidya, and we have jealousy, we have arrogance, we have distorted views, and we have deluded doubts, and there are many more. So these deluded states of mind, often motivate us and push us into negativities.
That that Nyomo Yen Tanji Zata Nyomo Mambo Chiyores. When the Nyomo Mobu or the Ina Tenzu Zawa Carson to Zawa and Dangzi Maripa Chagures.
So if we were to make a list of delusions, it would be a tremendously long list. But when we look at what is the root delusion, if you could pick one, we say this is the delusion from which everything else arises, then we identify our grasping at self, Tabzin in Tibetan. Self-grasping is the delusion from which all other delusions pop up.
So that Dangzi Maripate Rang, Tobayina, and then Nyoma again Samalo Tanga, Karis Demu Jumbi Jumbi Jashambo, Pawala Sundua, Demu Jumbi Jumbridges, Ranjula Yepe, Dangzi Maripate Kadu Mabzo Tusina, and then Yomot again to Samaluta, Jump to it. Penna, Hing in a Hing at South Govina, Yaga to Domboton Ramambogan, Kutanzi show Mab Chagur was the Nangiris.
So it is our job as spiritual practitioners to find out what is self-grasping. What is it? That is our job, to investigate and find out. And once we find it out and we apply antidote to counteract it and to eliminate it for good, once that self-grasping is eliminated from within our mind, then all other delusions will automatically, cease to exist. And why? Because, as I said, self-grasping is the source of all other delusions. And this is precisely what the great Indian Buddhist master Aryadeva, the main disciple of Arya Nagarjuna, states in his work. And Geshe quoted the lines from his memory. He said, "Timu chombe chombur jur." If you destroy ignorance, which is the self-grasping here, you would have destroyed everything else, meaning all other delusions. And so now how this works is, if we don't like a particular tree, it has too many branches, it's bothering us like anything. The only way to get rid of this tree for good is to uproot the tree. Not to trim the branches and the leaves, because they will keep on coming back. But once you take the tree from its very root, well, the trunk will die. The branches, it doesn't matter, thousands and billions of branches, they will die, and so nothing will grow back. This is the same. Once we get rid of, uproot, self-grasping, then all other delusions, how many they are, who cares? They cannot come back.
That's the sound Congress. But Susuni, Nangasieta, Rangi Benzini, Pay, the Lechita, and Jane, but a Jane can show my impachik. That Jane Zini, that Telechani, and a around a pair, Ransula Cha against down. That is someone you met any, not the other to Benzin, the one Yunguris.
So let's take a moment to think about who am I, or what is self? Okay, how do we perceive, self or I to exist? When we really try to find that one out, what we come to see is we as ordinary people perceive I or self to exist as if it exists in and of itself, independently. It's not dependent on any causes and conditions. It's just like fixed and right there, from its own side. It's almost say, hello, I'm here. Okay, that's me. Okay. But the fact of the matter is, there is no such thing as a self that exists in and of itself or inherently. There is no such thing that, hey, I'm here, look at me. There is no such independently existent self or I. And so what has been happening with us is we misperceive the self or I to exist in and of itself independently, and then we are very much attached to it. And then people who are kind of nice to us, or the self, then we consider them as our friends, and now we are buddy-buddy, and we are going to, hang out or whatever, get attached to them. And then people who don't like us, we say, okay, these are the enemies of my enemies or enemies of the self, so I'm going to hate them, or I'm going to, whatever I need to do to defeat them. So we just kind of get caught up in this game, of defeating the enemies and cherishing what we see as dear and near ones. So this is how we get caught up in this network of self-grasping. So it's very important for us to find out the way in which we perceive I or the self to exist, which I just said is in and of itself, and then investigate whether the self does exist in that way or not. Is that the way it really exists? No, it doesn't.
Rangsola, Penna Nanga and Penareta, Ran Hengo Kasiki, Hemba Nanga Sanaka, Hemba Tan Chawa Kasiki, Sheva in it, that difference in begins in Kanich, Kanich Shumbayana, Hugh Chamberson Yawanke, and they yen Yavartor. Ran difference in the yen Yavardo, yen Yavardo the day, yen never see it. That and they get them, give Lemon Bujin Sa. They want to take Randungan for your rest, Sonsa. That's our courage, Danzi Maribatil 2 years, just the never so good.
So here is the formula, that explains all kinds of sufferings that we don't want, but yet we run into them. Okay? So what happens is that, we as ordinary people or beings, we misperceive ourselves or self or I to exist independently, objectively, in and of itself. Okay? As if it is not dependent on anything else at all. And now we grasp at that particular notion of self, and we cherish it like anything, which is called self-cherishing attitude. So when we have too much of self-cherishing attitude, what happens? Then we really don't care about everybody else, who cares? Because they are not me, And so we started to be indifferent to others, and we also don't care about others. So as we don't care about others, then we find ourselves engaging in actions which are only beneficial to the self, and that might even harm and hurt others. But we say, who cares? okay, in our mind. We may not say that verbally, okay. And so when we do negativities, then of course these negativities produce negative results or a suffering. So this is the formula of the suffering, how everything goes back to self-grasping, how everything starts from self-grasping.
So that I'm kind of saying those in the social zupung the tang I understand. This is their maris.
I think many people, as they started to look for who am I or what is self, then they somehow end up saying, okay, this body that I have, so this is me. Okay? So I and the self is nothing but this body, this figure that I have. So they said, you know what, I couldn't be something that exists outside my body right there, or it's different from the body. So I is basically what my body is. So but is one's body I or the self? Well, it really is not, if we analyze it. So what is I, and how does it really exist, I or self? I'm using them as synonyms here, right? I or self. Okay. But how I or self really exists is just a mere label. It is just a label that is given onto a collection of our physical and mental aggregates. That's all there is to it. Okay? And each of us has got 5 what we call skandhas, or the aggregates. We have the aggregate of the form, aggregate of feelings, aggregate of discriminations, aggregate of compositional factors, and aggregate of consciousness. Okay? So based upon the collection of these psychosomatic aggregates, or physical and mental aggregates, I or self is simply labeled onto it. And that's how it is. There's nothing more, nothing less. It's just a label on a collection of physical and mental aggregates.
So
understanding, this, what I just explained in a very few, words, is understanding what selflessness is. Selflessness, understanding or realizing selflessness is the antidote to get rid of self-grasping. Once we understand what selflessness is, then we can understand that there is no such a self that exists in and of itself or independently. So every Sunday, all of us coming here together from different directions, part of the reasons for doing this is to be able to understand or realize what selflessness is.
So that's damage of Hirata, and Ranjul Tabris. That show a kidney shaking that is a new to you, Amaris. Kids and any round quality draw down, Dungil nearly tattoo or the inner, Singy to that drop a letter to you, Amaris.
So I said that is a part of the reason why we come here on Sundays and to get together and engage in spirituality. Why part of the reason? Because this is not the whole reason. See? Why? Then we should ask the question to ourselves, is it enough for me alone to be free from samsara, right, and be in the complete freedom state? And then I can say hallelujah. You see, this is it. Okay? No, that's not the end of the story. Okay? We have interconnections with all other sentient beings. So how dare or can we not think about them or care about other sentient beings?
So that Karagu is an
So as we see these connections between us and all other sentient beings, then we find the grounds why we need to care for them and why we need to cultivate altruistic state of mind. Altruism, or what in Sanskrit called bodhicitta. Why we must cultivate bodhicitta. So, what else is involved in cultivating bodhicitta? Is it simply like, okay, I want to become a Buddha for the sake of sentient being, as if that is going to do all the magic? No. It involves a process. Okay? The process involves other elements. We must cultivate great love, Mahametri, Champa Chimbo in Tibetan, and Mahakaruna, or great compassion, or Nyingje Chimbo in Tibetan. These positive attitudes must be cultivated first in order to experience what bodhicitta is. And again, before we could have compassion, great compassion for others, we, I think, need to cultivate great love for others. So why must one cultivate great love before great compassion? Here is the reason. When we check with our own ordinary experiences, you may have, your own family and children, or at least you may have someone who is very dear and near to you. Okay, so because we love, these people or beings, we always want them to be happy, don't we? Right? But once they run into problems, we find it unbearable. We very much wish them to be free from the problems. We really care about them, you see. The more they are in problems, the more it hurts us because we care about them, see. So this is the same thing. As we cultivate great love for sentient beings, now we see all of them to be very dear and close to us. So and now when these close, dear and near ones are in problem, suffering, we can't tolerate it anymore. You see, this is why we really wish them to be out of this problem as soon as possible, ASAP. Okay? So this is how great love really facilitates cultivating great compassion. So then what else is involved in cultivating love for sentient beings? Of course, we want to reflect upon how sentient beings have been very kind to us. Okay? Then we will feel the connection with them, right? We feel close to them. And as I mentioned earlier, that we have this close bond or connections with sentient beings. In the Buddhist literatures, we often talk about how all sentient beings have been our kind parents, moms and dads. Okay, now we can think about brothers and sisters, or any other relationships. So every sentient being has become our mom, dad, brother, sister, or any other important person in our lives. So we have that kind of connection, and they have been very kind to us in their ways. Now, this kind of a logic and thinking is, of course, based on an assumption that there is life before and life after. As a matter of fact, many, countless, right? If we only confine to this lifetime, this is it, and nothing before, nothing after, well, it makes no sense that, we, all sentient beings have become our mom and dad. Well, they are not in this life. I mean, who are we kidding? So it doesn't work. So this is based on the assumption that there are lives before, have been lives before, and there will be many more lives after. So based upon this theory of life before and after, we talk about our interconnection with sentient beings.
Senji Ral Debo the Chibo, you had the Senji Yin, years on this chapters. Just a Senji Yin at the Ral, Bishi Kandiki Yin at the Senji Yin at the Yungu.
If we think deeply, I mean, we will be able to appreciate, the fact that other sentient beings exist. Okay, all our happiness and goodness come through other sentient beings or interaction with them through their, help. Okay, if other sentient beings don't exist, we would be devoid of or deprived of many good things in our life and happiness and things that we talk about. So the fact that other sentient beings exist, that they function, that we have interconnections with them, we have interactions with them, brings us all kind of comforts and happiness and good things.
Saya Tunya, Go, at the Samalo, Senji Yen, Yen Kadina, Sumares, the Yemena, Rantuina, that the new Amaris.
So even basic necessities of life, food, clothing, shelter, all of this, we could have because of the kindness of other sentient beings, right? If others don't exist, just imagine we are alone, just nobody else around us. Can we provide all of these things to ourselves? You see, we don't grow food. See, well, Geshe didn't say that, but just to make my point. But we don't make our own clothes. We don't build our own houses, and most of us don't. Yeah? So some people are building and helping us in providing all these things. So we really need to appreciate their existence and their role in our life. So the point I'm trying to make is that our peace and happiness and comforts are very much related to the fact that others exist, other sentient beings exist, and they perform important roles in our life. So now we might, as we are thinking along this line, then we might come to a stage where we said, but what relation do I have with these small insects and use this, all of these things? What important role do they really play in my life? Okay. Well, from spirituality point of view, without these small insects, there is no way for us to cultivate great love, great compassion and bodhicitta, because they are very much part of sentient beings. Okay? And this is where they become very important to us. In the footnote, you ask the scientists, they are very much part of our ecosystem, without which, we can't exist. Well, this is my footnote.
Ecosystem, what is it?
No, this is
Women need to resume can boom everything. Okay. Oh, yeah. That in this on the chief Shavina, and this is Takanji, Sigi Yin, never said San Shijamas. Pember do come to never San Shijamas.
So the point I'm trying to drive home here is a very simple but yet very profound one, that because sentient beings have been so kind to us and we really need them, for this life and for our spiritual development, so we must not harm them or hurt them.
That's Kasi in Bass, Sharon Tango do is Sabazo, Tangagoman. In the Trevor Nalia, Twitter Shabin, Gargogers and Saint again, never done him a shake Googles.
So now let's try to recall what we were talking about last week. Of course, there are some new people, so you, of course, are excused from this. You were not here. But others, right? We were talking about, what must we do just to be able to, be counted as a Dharma practitioner. The least qualification that one should have to say, okay, I am, a practitioner of Dharma. What we talked about is that one must not harm or hurt any sentient being. That is the minimum least qualification we talked about to be a spiritual practitioner.
And
So if we want to be better than that or go a level above that, so what else do we need to do? Remember? In addition to not hurting others, what do we need to do? Yeah, benefit others, right?
That thing is actually.
Well, these are very, I think, important guidelines and, precious principles.
That
and of course, we want to raise ourselves to the highest level possible to be Dhamma practitioners. Then in addition to these two things, don't hurt others, benefit others as much as we can, we need to cultivate a bodhicitta or bodhisattva's attitude, altruistic mind of enlightenment, and combine that with the wisdom gone beyond, or the perfection of wisdom, prajna paramita. Okay, so we need to combine bodhicitta and the wisdom together, and by doing that, so we are able to become the best practitioners. And so I also want you to think about the other points that we talked about last time.
아니 최종의 절로스다 응어스 코랑도 화마서 송브레스 이나다 나랑 참말로레스 제자 넣송게스 코알레 파트 메터와스 코알레야 터 미주버 가르레스 나텐 데차트 셰븐데 찰 데칼 셰브레스 젠데 찰 셴타브레스
To continue from where we left off in this text called a miscellaneous collection of Kadampa Geshe's personal advices, Geshe Kara Gomchen, of course, he was talking to his students directly, but indirectly he's also talking to us or communicating to us. And he said that what really does not let us to be free from samsara, one of the factors is attachment. Okay, attachment binds us to samsara. And he said we must investigate the faults or the disadvantages of attachment.
손자다 딘산 랑게 란질의 옆에 데차텔라 랑 쉐마테나 때도 너레스 너가 첨부치레스 간.
And according to the great Geshe, that if we don't, make efforts to see what is wrong with attachment that we have inside us, then we are making a big mistake.
손자 다 시험 가르다 그래서 나빼나 란질의 매 예제 소아제부터 마르바 아찬찬시 이 토는 데차 응어스다 생기때 데차 왕게 소제부터 해당과 그게 소제 차도 좋은 게 있어 다 들리진 이 소제였다 미기 녀몽바 망보지 톤 들리시까 그래서 생도 왔어.
As I was talking about these things before, that we have so many delusions or afflictive emotions inside us which make us do many negativities. For example, out of ignorance, we might take the life of someone or kill someone. Okay? We can understand that. Or out of hatred or anger, we might kill someone. Or out of jealousy, we could kill someone. Or out of attachment, we could kill someone. So how these different delusions could prompt us or motivate us to do such negativities? Oh, not only that, attachment could motivate us to kill someone, but attachment could motivate us to do other negativities, like we go and steal things from others because of attachment.
다양 데차체 왕키 아니 예라다 룽아이스 never said something.
So out of attachment, we could be using our actions of body, speech, and mind to hurt or harm someone.
단 데차체 왕키 아니 다 예라 relationship 타도 셰바.
And out of attachment, we could become very jealous, jealous of others. Of course, it needs, a great deal of thinking, and also, we need to make time to think about in what many ways attachment, makes us do all sorts of negativities. One of the things we talk about is, grasping at this life, very much grasping at this life is also due to attachment. Great Tibetan master Manjushri Lama Tsongkhapa, who is also known as Rinpoche, or Gyalwa Lobsang Trapa, said, as Geshe quoted lines from his memory, that what really binds us to samsara is the lasso of attachment. The lasso of attachment binds us to samsara. And we might end up, fighting with someone, and then we realize it is because of attachment or out of attachment. So how does that work? We pick fights on others because we say, what? Because so-and-so has been very nasty to my girlfriend or to my boyfriend, to my husband, to my wife, to my children, to my family member, to my good friends, you see. So therefore, he deserves to be, challenged or whatever. Use a nice word, but, deserve to, knock him out.
Knock out. That's just easy. Okay. That can say this one was Rangili Yepi. The chat yen Bashir Hatanji sometimes Rangili Yepi, Rangili Yepi in the chat, that's Shan Kimbo Yimbachi Hakogoris.
So once again, I want to remind all of us that as we talk about what is wrong with attachment or any other delusions, again, we are not talking about, somebody's attachment or delusion, or as there is a kind of a cosmic kind of attachment and anger right there. So we really talk about, what is wrong with it. We are not in cyberspace. We are really very much here on the ground and talking about what is inside me, and what is wrong with my attachment, what is wrong with my anger, jealousy, ignorance. So we are not talking about, somebody's attachment or those delusions. We are not talking about some kind of a universal, cybernetic kind of attachment up there, somewhere.
No, that anyway. That give it our saying in your brashevas. Hedan shun tagures. Hedan shun the matina, Ranguli will be Hedan Kirdatin, and Ranguli will be Hedan to shun the matina, nor rescan.
And Karakumsin also continues to say that, if we don't think about what's wrong with hatred, Shedan, then it's also a big problem. We're making a big mistake. Why?
That Karasana Hedan the Ranguli Shumbayina. And gave it our chain and get at in Gambashigi or Sonsa, Hedan the Danga, Dachimbuchago, children this one.
Perhaps the biggest disadvantage of hatred is that it really destroys our roots of virtue or positive, qualities. That is the big, thing about hatred. And so as a spiritual practitioners, who want to promote positive things and do positive things and enhance positive things, we have to guard ourselves against hatred, because hatred can completely uproot our roots of virtue and merits.
So that current is the rank gets at you sabi and give it on the Jesus. King Kalechi in the sabi and the you the one Yabuchevres, more Mazina, then the Hedan gets at the Yum 2 Yum to.
So if hatred is such a vicious delusion that completely uproots our roots of virtue and merit, so what can we do, when we create merits? How can we safeguard them, if that's the concern we have? Well, whatever virtues or positive things we do, small, big, middle, whatever degrees of good things we do, we must dedicate our merits, for good causes. Okay, so dedication is the practice with which we can save or safeguard our merits. So let's say we accumulate a small teeny weeny merit, or little big merit, or really big merit, whatever the case may be. We should dedicate our merit to find a complete enlightened state for the sake of all other sentient beings. So when we do this kind of altruistic dedication, bodhisattva's kind of a dedication, then our merits remain safe. As a matter of fact, it has been stated in sutras that once we do that kind of altruistic dedication of our positive actions and merits, those virtues and merits remain safe, and they could not be and cannot be destroyed by anger or other delusions.
So in
the sutra it is stated, as Geshe quoted the relevant passages from his memory, which gives us a very nice example of how this really holds water, what we are just talking about, is that if we were to drop, put a drop of water in ocean, so long as the ocean exists, okay, ocean doesn't dry up, that drop of water will exist, okay, until that time. So in the same way, when we altruistically dedicate our merit remains, very safe. So as we talk about, engaging in positive actions or virtues, we're also talking about, for example, actions such as helping someone. Okay, someone needs our help, and with good motivation, right? No hidden agenda. If we, with good motivation, we help someone, and then we dedicate that merit, altruistically, that merit would remain very safe. Next, Kala Komchen tells us that we need to consider what is wrong with arrogance. So we have so much arrogance, then it really obstructs us from learning anything new, and also furthering our good qualities, or like increasing our knowledge and good qualities.
So the ngaje ko wan ke ani yele but ta kundu sina mendu ta yote yen sa so lang ya te rang ndo ba che ga ma kare sa ngarang chen gu sa ma hen na chen gu sa bi ta ngaje cho wan ke de chi shon de ani yen sa ne yote to lang ya ga ta thun de ba me ta
Ngachel or arrogance prevents us from appreciating goodness in others and others, knowledge and good things. Because the arrogance assumes that, well, I have everything, even if one doesn't have everything or know everything, right? Because arrogance had that assumption, because I am the Lord, or whatever. Okay, so, and so with that kind of attitude, one doesn't respect others, one doesn't appreciate the goodness in others, and one is not going to learn from others.
Yundi Naji the Jag Saginach, Jag Unif Chagger. Just a day Jag Sagi Khan and Runda Bakarina, the Savan Kartani, Shigmar, the Nai Chagger.
We have a saying in Tibetan that no grass of good qualities will grow on the iron surface, right? If you try to cultivate barley or rice, whatever you like, grains on an iron surface, nothing's going to grow. It's just a waste of time and energy. Okay? So just like that, on the surface, metaphorically speaking, on the iron surface of arrogance, one cannot cultivate, the good crops of virtues.
Najik Muntus the Carresena, Yin Kujip Shabaterta, the Yemposet of Medusa, Meduta Yempote, there's a Rally Yempe, I can't say Kandichi in a Telenepe, Kujip Shavers.
So respecting others or learning to respect others is a good antidote to counteract arrogance.
Kadampa any give you to any Ranga Walla. Lamta Chumato Yindake Mesans at Yin Tamalo Sengi, Samalo Rani Ranga Kujipsha Yuki, Rani Toa Yin Sambachi Nanguya.
Great Kadampa masters of the Geshes, the way they think is they always humble themselves to the extent they said that, I put myself at the lowest position possible. Everybody else, all sentient beings are above me and they respect them. So what is below me is this Mother Earth, and maybe underneath there is a water running. I don't know. Okay? So that's all there is. Below me, underneath me, but everybody else is above me, and they elevate everybody else above them and respect them. That's the Kadampa Geshe's way of respecting others.
Tapena Landi, all he said, Landi, so you can't get a Marabacambo in Dogro. So you and choose all the Remato, Rankani Yaka, Martina.
So the things that we tread upon, like if we are walking on a path, well, that path can be above us, right? Then how do we walk? We can walk upside down. So the path has to be below us and it is under our feet. But if we have to cross water, that water has to be underneath us because you can't put the water on top of you and cross the water. Yeah. So those are the only things below them, as the Kadampa Geshes would say, but everybody else is above them.
So that Yin Kanzaka, so Kanzaka, seeing 2 years, Sanjay Jondi, non-pension, Mato, Maranzo, Yin. Around 2 years, that cover to your marriage. Some Chishung, some Booing Killer, so busy in there, Maranzo, Tikusha, Mato, called to share your marriage.
As it is stated elsewhere, that only enlightened beings, the Buddhas, can judge, who is who and who is, not who. But everybody else must suspend judging each other because they said you could make a terrible mistake. Because after all, we cannot really know or judge who is who. Okay, we don't have that omniscient knowledge yet. So we could make a terrible mistake in our evaluation and judgment. And so the best way for us is learn to respect everybody else, just including, children and babies and below that insects. Okay, the small insects deserve our respect and our appreciation. But when I say respect everybody, I don't mean like everybody has to go and prostrate to the small insects or like that, And then just Chinese about someone like me, Bodhisattvas have deep respect of all other sentient beings, and they really truly mean it from their hearts. And that's what we're talking about. We are not talking about, falling on all our limbs and prostrating to, everybody else. And because Bodhisattvas always, treat other sentient beings equally. They do not, get caught up in being attached to some and hate others or indifferent to others. You see, because they see all sentient beings as being equal and treat them equally. You see, that's why one of the prayers we do, may I be able to, let go my attachment, hatred, and indifferent attitude to sentient beings and be able to treat everybody, equally.
다 고나조 공부기 전에 이거 맞다. 선제랑 돈이 한테 되면 용거로 와시는데 제준들이 용거로 왔어.
So from the perspective of bodhisattvas, they regard all sentient beings as being equal, they appreciate them and they respect them. But that does not mean that from the perspective of sentient beings, there are no variations. Of course, sentient beings have all kinds of variations, you know. Some are more educated, some are less educated, some are rich, some are poor, some are healthy, some are sick, whatever. You know, all the variations exist among sentient beings. So we are not denying all that variations in sentient beings, but what we're talking about is, from our perspective, regardless of the variations among sentient beings, we should learn to respect them equally. So as we are able to see sentient beings equally and treat them equally, then this is how, you know, we find ourselves not hurting them and helping them wherever we can. And this is where we are going to stop today. I want to take this opportunity to announce something about myself, that I have been, you know, recently going for some medical test, you know, and so because of that, I, you know, will not be able to teach, you know, Sunday for about a month, okay, 3 to 4 weeks. That's month thing, okay. But we will have, you know, Sunday teachings here. And Venerable Tenzin Dorjee, who we call Anila, of course now we have other Anilas too. So Tenzin Dorjee, La, is going to teach Sundays. Yeah.
And so Quran ki ta Quran chu nyanga yun ya wer kare sana kan hebe de hegru ma to so so rangzu shin zan heg maris.
So I would encourage you you know, to attend her teachings, because I believe that, you know, she's honest in what she teaches. And if she doesn't know anything, she will not talk about that. But she will talk about what she knows. So what she teaches will be in accordance with, you know, Dharma principles. So therefore, I think it would be good if you could come to her teachings. And then I think Wednesday evenings, I just kind of do teaching in my own English and do the conversation. But again, so for about a month, I won't be able to do the Wednesday evening teachings. But other schedules remain same. I think, okay, somebody need to correct me, okay, because I'm not in the whole loop of information here. I think you have something on Monday, right? There's something on Friday. Boy, there are too many things. Anyway, so those all schedules exist, you know, so nothing has, you know, it's changed there.
Venerable Tarso and
right. So we have two venerables here, nuns, right? So Venerable Tarso sitting over there next to the camera, and Venerable Tenzin Dorjee somewhere else. And so they will do the teachings and do the other schedules.
Meditate.
Yeah, so they do the meditation, whatever you do on Monday, you know, so those schedules will, you know, continue. That's what I mean.
Not the Harayis and Transit Samalo. Social Gom Jayatan. Yanes Yate, Social Rank to Chaguramato. So they my own day one and social non then and so she had the entire shepherds.
I do want to you know, emphasize this point that practicing Dharma is individual and personal responsibility. Okay, so by that what I mean to say is, if you don't let's say we have something happening here, that doesn't mean now we don't have to practice. Okay. practice is what we have to do. It's a personal responsibility at home. If we couldn't come here, we have to practice at home, or we come here and practice. But practice we must. Okay, so that's the important thing. So whatever we know about Dharma, it's important, actually more important, to put that into practice or to, to cultivate that. So with that, I have some prayer requests here. Prayers have been requested for a number of people who have passed away, because these are identified, that's why I'm saying it. But they're unidentified ones, so I have to stay in the general thing. Prayers have been requested for Lee Thi Kim Quoy in Vietnam, passed away. Do Nguyen Hang, Do Nguyen Dai, Kim Van Dong, and so those have been passed away. And prayer has been requested for Michelle Chen, dealing with, I think, health issue. And prayers have been requested for Utako Owens, 75 years old, and James Lynch Jim.
Ane Javi Yuno Bitsebe, Tenzin Dorjee Chukuse Chabe Tempata, Tuji Indo Bemilhundo Yomakyo. Ane Chur Dongkingi, Show Pomonamchi, Kuntinji Chawana Yizan Robaki, Tang. Ane Jedi Jakam Deta Yendo, Muntibi Gutsota da Heni, Twinchi Sota da Bemilhundo Yomakyo.
Let us dedicate our collective marriage for the flourishing of Dharma, the source of benefits and happiness throughout the universe. May His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all other holy beings and masters, wherever they are in any part of the universe, live long and be successful in fulfilling their visions benefiting sentient beings. May spiritual communities throughout the world and spiritual practitioners from all traditions remain healthy, harmonious, and be successful in fulfilling their spiritual aspirations. May this and other world environments be free of all kinds of unwanted pains and problems, and beings find peace, happiness, prosperity, and spirituality. Last but not least, we dedicate our positive energy, punya, merit, for all kind mother sentient beings to be free from the fears and dangers of two types of mental obscuration, and may we all reach complete enlightened state quickly. Simcho Remboche, Maje Bana Shejurje, Shaba Nyamba Mepawatan, Kone Kondo Pewer, Sho Tonya Tawa Remboche, Maje Bana Shejurje, Shaba Nyamba Mepawatan, Kone Kondo Pewer, Sho Kare Rave Kurve Shankam Tere, Pedava Deva Malu.
Vene, Shere Zawa Tenzin Dorjee, Shope Sende Bado Tenyo, Soye Beje Shu, Tamara Rolangi, Dejabanda, Sanje Yendo Mede Buoye, Rokunam Da Kinlo Shebo, Sho Edam Guru Namandala,
I would personally like to kind of ask you to save your prostrations for Geshe, returning to us and giving teachings. Okay, so traditionally we don't need to do prostrations, so we can create positive conditions for him to be able to teach us again soon. And then I believe Doran Harbour will have some words on behalf of TTL after Geshe go upstairs. Okay, so please stay put.